Daniel Whitmore never expected the question that would change his life to come from a 6-year-old. Daddy, why is she sleeping here? He looked up from the documents on his desk, momentarily confused. His daughter Lily stood in the doorway of his office, still wearing her pink unicorn pajamas, clutching the stuffed rabbit she refused to sleep without. And behind her was the housekeeper, standing awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable. Daniel frowned slightly. "A sleeping where, sweetheart?" Lily tilted her head in that way children do when adults somehow miss the obvious. Outside. The word hung in the air. Daniel Whitmore had spent the last 15 years building one of the most successful investment firms in New York. He negotiated billion-dollar acquisitions, sat on corporate boards, spoke at global finance conferences. Yet somehow he had absolutely no idea what his daughter was talking about. "Outside where?" he asked calmly. Lily simply grabbed his hand. "Oh, come see." Daniel followed her down the long marble hallway of their penthouse apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Every piece of furniture had been selected by an interior designer. Everything in Daniel's life had been carefully curated. Structured, optimized, predictable. Except Lily, and apparently whatever she was about to show him. She pulled him toward the service entrance of the building. "Right here," she whispered. Daniel opened the door, and froze. A woman was asleep against the wall. She couldn't have been older than 25. Her clothes were clean but worn. Her head rested on a small backpack. One arm wrapped around herself to keep warm. Daniel glanced around the hallway. The building was one of the most secure residential towers in Manhattan. Private elevators, security staff, concierge desk, which meant one thing. She hadn't broken in, she had been allowed in. Behind him, the housekeeper spoke nervously. Mr. Whitmore, I can explain." Daniel slowly turned. Maria had worked for his family for nearly 4 years. She rarely looked uncomfortable. Right now, she looked terrified. "What's going on, Maria?" Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. She was in the lobby last night. Security was about to make her leave. Daniel waited. She said she had nowhere to go. Daniel looked back at the sleeping woman, then back at Maria. "So you brought her here, just for the night," Maria said quickly. "We didn't know what else to do." Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but Lily beat him to it. She looked cold. Both adults turned. Lily stepped closer to the sleeping stranger. She was shaking. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest, because Lily wasn't wrong. Even now the woman's shoulders trembled slightly in her sleep. The hallway was warm, but not warm enough for someone sleeping on tile. Lily looked up at him again, the same way she did whenever she asked a question that mattered. "Daddy, can she stay?" Daniel Whitmore had always believed in solving problems efficiently. Identify the issue. Apply the logical solution. Move forward. It was the philosophy that built his company. But there was nothing efficient about this situation. The woman shifted slightly in her sleep. A quiet sound escaped her. Not quite a word, more like exhaustion. Daniel crouched down beside her. He kept his voice calm. "Miss?" Her eyes opened instantly. Wide, alert, terrified. She sat up so quickly her backpack nearly slipped away. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I'll leave." Her voice carried the automatic apology of someone used to being told they didn't belong somewhere. Daniel held up a hand. "You don't need to run." She hesitated. Her eyes darted between Daniel, Maria, and Lily. Then she noticed the apartment behind them, the polished floors, the designer furniture, the quiet luxury of a life she clearly did not belong to. "I shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Or not wrong," Daniel replied calmly. Maria winced, but Daniel's tone softened slightly. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated before answering. "Emily." "Emily what?" "Emily Carter." Daniel nodded slowly. "And why exactly are you sleeping in my hallway?" "Emily Carter." For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she looked down at the floor. "Bonjour, you landlord changed the locks yesterday." The explanation came out flat. Emotionless, like something she'd already repeated too many times. Daniel glanced at Maria. Maria quietly confirmed it. As she showed security the eviction notice, Emily spoke again. "You wasn't trying to cause trouble." Lily stepped closer. "You didn't." All three adults looked at her. Lily crouched down in front of Emily, completely unconcerned with social boundaries. "You looked cold." Emily blinked. "I'm okay." "I know you're not." Daniel almost smiled. His daughter had inherited his stubbornness. Unfortunately, she used it differently. "Daddy," Lily said again. Can she stay?" Daniel stood slowly. The logical answer was obvious. This was not his responsibility. He could call a shelter, give her money, ask building security to escort her out. All perfectly reasonable solutions, but Lily was still watching him, and somehow, that made the decision far more complicated than any corporate negotiation. Daniel looked back at Emily. When was the last time you ate? She hesitated. Yesterday morning, Maria gasped quietly. Daniel rubbed his forehead. This was escalating faster than he expected. He looked at Maria. Make breakfast. Then he looked at Emily. You're not sleeping in the hallway. Emily blinked. I'm not? No. Daniel gestured toward the apartment. You're coming inside. Emily Carter stood frozen in the doorway. She had never been inside a home like this before. The living room alone was larger than her entire previous apartment. Everything was quiet, spotless, perfectly arranged, like something from a magazine. But we're doing it anyway, he added. Maria returned from the kitchen. A breakfast will be ready in 10 minutes. Emily shifted uncomfortably. You don't have to feed me? Daniel gave her a look that suggested arguing would be pointless. You're already here. Lily pulled out a chair. You can sit next to me. Emily sat carefully, like she might break something just by existing. Daniel watched her quietly. Years of reading people in business meetings had taught him one thing. Emily wasn't pretending. The exhaustion, the guarded posture, the cautious way she observed everything. She was someone who had learned the hard way not to trust kindness too easily. Lily swung her legs under the chair. Emily looked down. Down. Yes. Sometimes people just don't. Daniel leaned back slightly in his chair. Something about the way she said it bothered him. Not angry, not bitter, just resigned. And Daniel Whitmore had built his entire life around refusing to accept resignation. Breakfast was quiet at first. Emily ate slowly, carefully, like she was afraid someone might take the food away. Lily, on the other hand, asked questions non-stop. Do you have a house? No. Do you have a job? Emily nodded slightly. I did. What happened? Daniel cleared his throat. That's enough questions for now. Lily frowned. But I'm learning. Emily smiled faintly. It's okay. She looked at Lily. I worked at a bookstore. Lily gasped. I love books. Emily's smile grew slightly. Me too. Daniel noticed something interesting. Emily relaxed around Lily, the tension in her shoulders eased, her voice softened. Children had that effect on people sometimes. But it was more than that. It was as if Lily reminded her of something she'd almost forgotten. Daniel checked his watch. His morning meeting started in 20 minutes. Ordinarily he would already be on a conference call by now. Instead, he was sitting at his kitchen table eating pancakes with a stranger who had slept in his hallway. Life had taken an unexpected turn. And somehow, he suspected this was only the beginning.